Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're embarking on a deep dive into a book that, well, remains one of the most controversial and widely discussed works in modern history, Mein Kampf.
Absolutely. Often called the Bible of National Socialism. Its role in shaping the 20th century is undeniable, making it crucial, if difficult to understand.
Exactly. So our mission today is to really go deep into our source material. We want to explore the content of Mein Kampf, look at the author Adolf Hitler, and how his life intertwined with the book's creation.
And its enduring, frankly chilling legacy that includes its publication history and, how it's been received around the world.
Right. And for this deep dive, we've got a pretty diverse stack of sources lined up. We have direct excerpts from a 1939 English translation of Mein Kampf itself,
Complete with the translator's introduction, which is interesting in itself.
Yeah. We also have an extensive encyclopedic entry on Hitler's life and a detailed Wikipedia article specifically focusing on Mein Kampf.
Which gives a good overview of its ideology and impact, kind of pulling things together.
So a solid base to work from.
And I think it's paramount to state up front, our goal here is to impartially convey the ideas contained within these original source materials.
Definitely.
Our focus is on fostering a factual understanding, without, of course, endorsing any of the viewpoints presented in the book itself.
No, absolutely not.
But engaging with this material, however challenging it might be, is just crucial for truly learning from history, understanding how these ideologies can, take root.
Couldn't agree more. So, with that important context set, let's begin at the very beginning, with the author himself. Our sources offer some insights into Adolf Hitler's early life. What do they tell us? What foundational experiences might have shaped him?
Well, the basics. Adolf Hitler, born April 20, 1889, Braunau am Inn, Austria. His father, Alois, was illegitimate, but established the Hitler surname.
Okay.
He spent most of his childhood in Linz. That remained his favorite city. Apparently, he even wished to be buried there.
And his schooling?
Mixed record. Never got beyond secondary education. And a really significant detail from this time is his dream of being an artist.
Right, the failed artist narrative.
He twice failed to get into the Academy of Fine Arts in Vienna. Twice.
So after those rejections, he's this struggling artist, kind of adrift in Vienna. How did that period, living precariously, how did that shape his worldview, according to our sources?
Well, precisely. For several years, he lived this lonely, uncertain life there, painting postcards, advertisements just to get by, often drifting between municipal hospitals.
Sounds bleak.
It does. And our sources note that even then he showed traits that would, define him later. Loneliness, secretiveness, a sort of bohemian lifestyle, and a palpable hatred of cosmopolitanism, of Vienna's multinational character. This seems to be where his grievances really started to solidify.
That Vienna period seems incredibly formative then, laying the groundwork. And speaking of anti-Semitism, which became so central, Mein Kampf itself claims it began there. Is that depiction accurate according to the other sources we have?
Yeah, this is a really fascinating point where the sources diverge a bit. According to Mein Kampf itself, Hitler claimed he hadn't even met a Jew until Vienna, and that his initial attitude was liberal, tolerant, dismissing the anti-Semitic press.
Which sounds self-serving.
It does. And one source directly indicates he later accepted anti-Semitic views crucial to his program, while other sources explicitly state that the autobiographical part of Mein Kampf actually twisted the truth about his Vienna life.
How so?
Including the very timing of when his anti-Semitism crystallized. It suggests it happened later, maybe in Munich.
Okay.
But regardless of the exact timing of its crystallization, he certainly found Vienna, in his words, a repugnant mix of races.
Wow.
Listing Czechs, Poles, Hungarians, Ruthenians, Serbs, and Croats, and always that infection which dissolves human society, the Jew. And he also started seeing Marxism as working purely for Jewish interests during this time.
So the worldview was definitely hardening, even if his own account of the timeline was, let's say, massaged. Okay, let's move to World War I. This seems like a huge turning point, right? Where these simmering resentments found a new outlet.
It absolutely was. Hitler moved to Munich in 1913. He was actually deemed physically unfit for Austrian military service in February 1914.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. But when war erupted, he ardently petitioned Bavarian King Louis III to let him serve. And he joined the 16th Bavarian Reserve Infantry Regiment, deployed in October 1914.
And he served throughout the war as a runner, right? Constantly at the front.
That's right, a headquarters runner. He was wounded in October 1916, gassed near Ypres in 1918. His personal courage was recognized too. Iron Cross, second class in 1914. And notably the Iron Cross, first class, in August 1918, which is pretty rare for a corporal.
Yeah, definitely.
But what's truly critical here, and quite disturbing, is how he felt about the war. While it was a trauma for millions, he greeted it with enthusiasm.
He saw it as a relief.
A great relief from the frustration and aimlessness of civilian life. Found discipline, comradeship satisfying. He genuinely seemed to believe in the heroic virtues of war. It gave his aimless life a singular purpose, it seems. Yeah, a profound contrast to the widespread disillusionment. So the war wasn't a trauma for him. It was a revelation, a place he belonged. How did this newfound purpose then transition into his political career amidst the chaos of post-war Germany?
Well, after his discharge from the hospital, Germany's defeated, there's social unrest. Hitler takes up political work in Munich. Around May-June 1919, he joins the small German Workers' Party in September 19.
As an army political agent, was it?
Exactly, as an army political agent initially. But by 1920, his talent for rhetoric was obvious. He's put in charge of party propaganda, leaves the army to focus entirely on politics.
The party gets renamed?
To the National Socialist German Workers' Party, the Nazi Party. And the conditions at the time were just incredibly fertile for a party like that.
Right, the resentment over the defeat.
The Versailles Treaty, the economic chaos, strong Bavarian separatism. It was a perfect storm.
And he had help consolidating his position early on. Yes, a key early supporter was Ernst Röhm. Röhm significantly helped Hitler rise by recruiting these strong-arm squads, the Sturmabteilung, or SA.
The brown shirt.
The brown shirts. To protect meetings, yes, but also to aggressively attack opponents.
And this rapid, often violent growth, it culminated in the infamous beer hall putsch, didn't it? What did that failed coup attempt mean for the party, and specifically for Hitler and the writing of Mein Kampf?
It was the climax of that early rapid growth, the beer hall putsch, November 1923, an attempt to seize power in Munich. And it failed spectacularly.
Yeah, shots fired, people killed.
The police and army fired on the marchers, killed some Nazis. Hitler himself was injured. 4 policemen were killed too. He was tried for high treason, got 5 years in fortress confinement at Landsberg Castle.
But only served 9 months.
Just 9 months. And it was during this imprisonment that he began dictating the first volume of Mein Kampf.
Dictating, not writing.
Dictating, yes.
Yeah.
Initially, he wanted this rather unwieldy title, 4.5 years of struggle against lies, stupidity, and cowardice. Not quite. His publisher wisely suggested the much shorter Mein Kampf, My Struggle. Interestingly, he hoped the book sales would cover his legal costs from the trial.
Practical.
And the second volume was finished after his release in December 1924. So that period in prison, though brief, essentially forced him to consolidate and articulate his ideology into one text.
It's remarkable, really. A failed coup leads directly to this foundational text. Okay, let's shift focus now to the blueprint itself. The ideas he laid out in prison. What were the central, often shocking concepts in Mein Kampf that became the basis for his new order?
It outlined a truly chilling worldview, basically a declaration of intent. Key pillars included, first, racial supremacy and social Darwinism. It laid out this inherent inequality among races, nations, even individuals, exalting the Aryan race as the genius, the creative element. Hitler wrote, "All who are not of a good race are chaff."
Chaff.
Yeah, and explicitly called for care for the purity of their own blood. It went even further, arguing the destruction of the weak and sick is far more humane than their protection.
So an explicit call for eugenics, for racial purity, right there from the start, in black and white.
Absolutely, woven right into the fabric of his thinking. Second, the concept of the Volk and the state.
The people.
The people, yes. The natural unit of mankind, he believed, was the Volk, with the German people being the greatest. The state existed only to serve the Volk.
And democracy.
Condemned. Parliamentary democracy was condemned because it assumed individual equality, which Hitler vehemently believed didn't exist. So it couldn't truly represent the Volk's interests in his view. Third, the Führer principle. The unity of the Volk would find its ultimate expression in the Führer, a leader with perfect absolute authority. The party was seen as drawn from the Volk, acting as its safeguard.
Led by the infallible leader.
Exactly. And fourth, perhaps most infamously, anti-Semitism. The book posits the Jewish peril, frames it as this vast Jewish conspiracy to gain world leadership.
The global conspiracy trope?
Classic trope. He saw the Jew as the destroyer of culture, a parasite within the nation, a menace, truly believing them to be the incarnation of evil. It even referenced the protocols of the Elders of Zion.
That forgery.
That known fabricated text, yes. Presented it as authentic to bolster his claims.
And the sources give us some direct, horrifying quotes from Mein Kampf on this, right? Making the intent just terrifyingly clear.
They do. Hitler wrote, and this is a direct quote, "The nationalization of our masses will succeed only when, aside from all the positive struggle for the soul of our people, their international poisoners are exterminated." Exterminated. And even more chillingly, he suggested, if at the beginning of the war, 12 or 15,000 of these Hebrew corruptors had been subjected to poison gas, then the sacrifice of millions at the front would not have been in vain.
My God, it lays bare the intent. A direct precursor to the Holocaust right there.
Stark and horrifying. There's no ambiguity.
So how did these deeply rooted racial prejudices then extend beyond the Jewish people? How did they influence his geopolitical ambitions?
That's a critical connection.
Yeah.
Fifth, we have anti-Slavism and Lebensraum. Living space.
Right, Lebensraum.
The book argued Germans needed vast Lebensraum in the East, specifically naming Poland, Ukraine, the USSR. This was framed as a historic destiny to nurture the German people.
And the people already living there.
He viewed the Russian state, for example, not as a result of Slavic abilities, but the state-forming efficacy of the German element in an inferior race. This belief chillingly foreshadowed General Plan Ost, the plan for ethnic cleansing in Eastern Europe.
So just dismiss the Slavic people entirely.
And he was explicitly against Germanizing Slavs, believed it would damage the German nation's dignity and nobility by diluting it with the inferiority of a foreign race. And finally, the book called for revenge against France, saw France as a natural enemy that had to be cowed or subdued to allow for that Eastern expansion.
It's just a comprehensive manifesto for aggression, hatred, expansion. But what about the writing style itself? Our sources describe it pretty vividly and maybe surprisingly, given its impact.
They do. Mein Kampf's style has been consistently described as, well, turgid, repetitious, wandering, illogical.
Not exactly a literary masterpiece.
Far from it, and filled with grammatical errors in the first edition, reflecting, as one source puts it, a half-educated man. However, and this is crucial, it was also skillfully demagogic.
How so?
It strongly appealed to dissatisfied groups. Ultranationalists, anti-Semites, anti-Democrats, anti-Marxists, the military. Paradoxically, maybe this very clunkiness, this raw, unfiltered outpouring, made it feel more relatable, more authentic to people feeling disenfranchised.
Like it wasn't some polished elite text, but a cry from the gut.
Exactly. Less like an academic treatise, more like a visceral expression of shared grievances, perhaps.
That's a powerful point, and translators have backed this up, haven't they? The quality of the language.
Yes, they certainly have. Translators noted the poor quality of Hitler's German. One described the original as an incoherent soup, admitting they could become half-mad translating it.
Wow.
Another translator even pointed out that earlier translations often corrected the language, smoothed it out.
Which gave a false impression.
Right. It inadvertently made Hitler seem like a more cultured man with coherent and grammatically correct reasoning, which was a case in the original German. It's a reminder of how presentation can shape perception.
It's really remarkable, a book described like that, with such flawed logic, becoming foundational to a movement that led to global war. How did these ideas, articulated in Mein Kampf, then translate into concrete political action? How did we consolidate power after getting out of prison?
Well, after his release, Hitler, having learned from the putsch's failure, strategically vowed to achieve power only through legal political means. No more coups.
Play the game.
Play the game. The Nazi Party's membership grew significantly, 25,000 in 1925, up to 180,000 by 1929. Then the Great Depression hit.
The crucial factor.
Absolutely crucial. It provided millions of jobless, deeply dissatisfied voters who saw the Nazis as maybe a solution. The Nazi vote in the Reichstag just exploded. From 800,000 in 1928 to 14 million in July 1932.
14 million.
Making them the largest bloc in the Reichstag, 230 members, 38% of the vote. Huge.
So economic hardship really flung the door open. How else did he maneuver into the top job?
He was incredibly shrewd politically, made key alliances like with the nationalist Alfred Hugenberg. That gave him access to Hugenberg's nationwide newspaper network, a huge platform.
Got the message out.
Exactly. He also secured crucial financial support from various business and industry magnates. Then, even though Nazi votes actually dropped slightly in November 1932, Hitler's shrewd maneuvering with conservatives like Franz von Papen persuaded President Hindenburg.
The aging president.
The aging President Hindenburg, yes, to name him chancellor on January 30, 1933. His first cabinet actually had few Nazis, which seemed like a compromise, but the essential foot in the door.
And from that foothold, The consolidation of dictatorial power began, dismantling democracy incredibly quickly.
Terrifyingly fast. The Reichstag fire, February 27, 1933, whether orchestrated or opportune, provided the immediate excuse for a decree overriding fundamental freedoms.
Convenient.
Very. Then, in the March 5, 1933 elections, the Nazis got 43.9% of the vote. And crucially, the enabling bill passed March 23, 1933. That effectively gave Hitler dictatorial powers. He could bypass the Reichstag, bypass the president.
Game over for democracy?
Pretty much. By July 1933, the Nazi Party is declared the only political party in Germany. All other parties, organizations, labor unions systematically dissolved. When Hindenburg dies in 1934, Hitler merged the roles of Chancellor and President, taking the titles Führer, Chancellor, and Commander-in-Chief of the Army. Still party leader, too.
Absolute power.
And he ruthlessly crushed any internal dissent. The party's socialist wing, including Ernst Röhm and other SA leaders, eliminated on the night of the Long Knives, June 29, 1934.
Removing potential rivals.
Securing his absolute control.
It's a terrifyingly efficient path to dictatorship. So, with this total control solidified, how did those ideas from Mein Kampf, the Lebensraum, the anti-Slavism, the revenge against France, how did they explicitly manifest in his foreign policy? How did they lead Germany and the world towards war?
Well, Mein Kampf really did serve as an ominous blueprint, not just abstract ideas. The reunion of German peoples, that was his overriding ambition, stated right there in the book.
First goal.
First goal. He systematically started undoing the Treaty of Versailles restrictions, posing as a man of peace publicly, while withdrawing Germany from the Disarmament Conference of the League of Nations in October 33, signing a non-aggression pact with Poland in January 34.
Seemingly peaceful moves
that masked deeper aggressive intentions.
And the territorial expansion, the Lebensraum idea, was clearly laid out too. How did he start executing that vision?
Oh, absolutely. The Saarland returned to Germany via plebiscite in 1935. Conscription introduced the same year, openly violating Versailles. His greatest stroke, taken even against generals' advice, was remilitarizing the Rhineland in 1936.
Testing the waters.
And finding no resistance. Then came the Anschluss annexation of Austria in 1938. After forcing the Austrian chancellor to include Nazis in his government, then just invading.
Then Czechoslovakia.
The Munich Agreement, September 1938. Infamously ceded the Sudetenland, the German-speaking parts, to Germany, Hitler declared it his last territorial demand.
Which nobody believed.
And rightly so. He quickly followed up by occupying the rest of Czechoslovakia in March 1939. Forced Lithuania to cede Memel that same month. Constant expansion.
And he built alliances to help, forming what became the Axis powers.
Yes, strategically. Alliance with Italy, the Rome-Berlin Axis, October 1936, the Anti-Comintern Pact with Japan, creating this formidable bloc.
And the final piece?
The final catalyst for World War II was the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, non-aggression pact with the Soviet Union, August 1939.
The big shocker.
The greatest diplomatic bombshell, as one source calls it, because it secretly partitioned Poland and Eastern Europe. It removed Germany's fear of a two-front war, at least initially.
Clearing the way for Poland?
Exactly. The German invasion of Poland, September 1st, 1939, was the logical outcome of Hitler's plans, laid out years earlier in Mein Kampf. And that directly led Britain and France to declare war 2 days later.
The blueprint followed to the letter. Now, the sources describe a truly fascinating and often disturbing journey for Mein Kampf itself, the book, after its initial publication and Hitler's rise. How did it actually sell once its author was leading Germany?
Well, initially sales were pretty slow, but it became a massive bestseller in Germany after Hitler took power in 1933.
Suddenly very popular.
Suddenly very popular. Hitler himself made substantial income from it. His accumulated tax debt from book sales, over 400,000 Reichmarks, was just waived when he became chancellor.
Nice perk of the job.
Quite. By 1939, it had sold 5.2 million copies, translated into 11 languages. During his years in power, it was everywhere. High demand in libraries, reviewed, quoted.
Given away
free to every newlywed couple and every soldier at the front.
Sure.
Disturbing, right? What's truly ironic, though, is that Hitler himself later kind of distanced himself from it. Reportedly called it fantasies behind bars. Said he never would have written the book if he knew he'd become chancellor.
Really? Why do you think? Embarrassed by the writing? Or maybe it's frankness?
Maybe a bit of both. Perhaps recognizing its value as a foundational text that got him there, but not necessarily something he wanted scrutinized too closely once he was in power. Or maybe just realizing it wasn't great literature.
That's a striking detail, him sort of dismissing it. How did other prominent figures react to Mein Kampf at the time? Were there contemporary observations that shed light on its perceived impact even before the full horror became clear?
There were, and they're quite insightful. Mussolini, for instance, famously called it a boring tome that I have never been able to read. Dismissed Hitler's beliefs as little more than commonplace cliches.
Professional jealousy, maybe.
Could be. But American journalist John Gunther, writing in 1940, found it, quote, vapid, vain, rhetorical, diffuse, prolix. Yet even he added, it is a powerful and moving book, the product of great passionate feeling, noting it left its message impregnably in their minds, fecund and germinating.
So badly written, but potent.
Exactly. And George Orwell, reviewing an uncensored translation in 1940, made a really keen observation. He said the force of Hitler's personality somehow shone through the clumsy writing, capturing a magnetic allure.
Orwell saw the danger.
He did. He famously wrote that while others offered a good time, Hitler offered struggle, danger, and death. And as a result, a whole nation flings itself at his feet. Powerful insight into the psychological appeal, despite the poor writing.
Chilling. And Churchill.
Winston Churchill, writing after WWII, said no other book deserved more intensive scrutiny after Hitler's rise. Called it the new Quran of faith and war. Turgid, verbose, shapeless, but pregnant with its message.
Pregnant with its message. That sums it up. Okay, turning to the post-war period. What happened to the book's copyright? Its availability. It's been a complex legal and ethical minefield, hasn't it?
Incredibly complex. After Hitler's suicide, the copyright passed to the state government of Bavaria because his official residence was Munich.
Okay.
Bavaria then used this copyright to refuse permission for copying or printing in Germany. They opposed it abroad too, though with less success internationally. This went on for decades.
Until
the copyright expired. December 31st, 2015. 70 years after Hitler's death. The book entered the public domain.
And that sparked a huge debate.
Immediately. Significant public debate. Some Jewish groups supported republication, but only in a critically annotated form. Others opposed any republication at all. Fierce disagreement.
So what happened in Germany?
In 2016, Munich's Institute for Contemporary History, the IFZ, published this massive edition, heavily annotated, 2 volumes, nearly 2,000 pages, about 3,500 notes.
A critical edition. It's explicitly educational, aiming to counter neo-Nazi versions, provide historical context, debunk the myths. And it proved remarkably popular, sold over 85,000 copies by January 2017.
Wow. So there was clearly an appetite for understanding it, but with context. What about its global availability today, beyond Germany? Do the sources show how it's treated elsewhere? What do the differences tell us?
They do, and it varies hugely. Reflects different legal systems, different histories. In Germany, owning and buying it isn't an offense. Trading old copies is okay unless you're promoting hatred or war.
But the unannotated version?
The unmodified version isn't technically banned under anti-propaganda laws because of a 1979 court ruling calling it a pre-constitutional work. However, a 2016 ruling classified distributing the unabridged, uncommented version by a far-right publisher as incitement of mass. So it was put on the list of media harmful to young people, can't be sold to minors.
Okay, so restrictions on the raw text. What about France? In France, interestingly, an unauthorized translation with a critical introduction was unofficially sponsored by the government way back in 1934 as a warning against Hitler.
Proactive.
Yeah. Hitler actually sued for copyright infringement, won, got copies seized, but many still circulated. After 1945, it kept being sold, sometimes leading to fines for inciting anti-Semitism, but generally allowed with warnings. And like Germany, a new 1,000-page critical edition came out in 2021, with proceeds going to the Auschwitz-Birkenau Foundation. Similar educational approach.
And the United States.
With the First Amendment. In the U.S., yes, Mein Kampf is protected by the First Amendment. You can find it in the libraries, buy it, sell it, trade it freely. Houghton Mifflin, the U.S. publisher, apparently sold over 15,000 copies a year.
15,000?
And actually had difficulty finding a charity willing to accept the profits from it, which says something. Though, interestingly, Amazon banned sales of new and secondhand copies in March 2020, a private company decision.
Right. And elsewhere.
Beyond those, it's widely available and has even been a bestseller in India and Turkey. Often linked, sources say, to rising nationalism or anti-U.S. sentiment there. It's also seen translations and sales in Egypt, Israel, where a Hebrew translation was courageously published by a Holocaust survivor, Finland, Sweden. But total contrast, it's explicitly forbidden for publication in Latvia and Russia. So a real patchwork globally.
This deep dive into Mein Kampf, it leaves no doubt about its profound, deeply disturbing impact. It really stands as this chilling testament to extremist ideology. The foundational blueprint for the Nazi regime's horrific actions, the Holocaust, World War II, its themes are still debated, analyzed globally. We're still grappling with its legacy.
Indeed. Our sources rightly describe Mein Kampf as a monograph of malevolence. I think this exploration really underscores why it's imperative to engage with and understand texts like this, not obviously to glorify them.
Never.
But precisely to learn from history, to understand how these ideas took hold, and hopefully prevent anything like it from happening again.
A crucial, if uncomfortable, task.
Absolutely. So as you, our listener, reflect on this, what truly stands out to you? How could a book described by so many as poorly written, illogical even, become so profoundly impactful, shape such a dark chapter in human history? And what does the ongoing debate about its global availability tell us about our present-day challenges in confronting and combating harmful ideologies? Something to think about.